Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the 8-Bit Adventures podcast. The podcast bringing you the latest and greatest gaming headlines of the past week. This is episode 307, and I am your host, Sean Hayes. We've got a lot of layoff news this week, but there's some good news in there. But unrelated. Something I gotta mention before we start is I just saw a TikTok for, as I'm sure this will be news that's relevant to a lot of the audience out there, that a sort of parts unknown style series featuring Dominic Moynihan and Billy Boyd is in post-production right now. It's like a 6-part series where the Lord of the Rings actors just go around to different places and like try out food and experience the local culture and do all sorts of shenanigans. And it looks like there's at least one segment featuring Sir Ian McKellen. So yeah, be on the lookout for that. I'm sure it'll be great. Yeah, not gaming news, not part of the lineup, but I'm super stoked. I want it now. So, and those two are great. They're just absolute. I could put them in anything and everything. So yeah, hope everyone's been doing well. And we're back after being a week off. No further vacations for a while, so we should, assuming we can all stay healthy, fingers crossed. If I sound a little nasally, I'm coming down with a case of the sniffles, but yeah, we should be able to continue without taking any breaks from the podcast schedule. So all right, why don't we get into this week's headlines? So first up, Gamesindustry.biz reports that Destiny developer Bungie has laid off another 220 staff. And then in addition to that is transferring 155 to Sony Interactive Entertainment. And then in addition to that is transferring another 75 to a new studio being formed under Sony. So yeah, the statement from the company is that it was overly ambitious, and it basically allowed itself to grow too big. Yeah, no, this is terrible. Yeah, and it was the case of I have in other news reports that like the CEO had a habit of like going out, spending his money on like all sorts of like like very expensive cars, which, not how I would choose to, if I had tons of extra money, how I would choose to spend it. But if it's your money, do that. It's gross in that that's happening while you're laying people off. But then also what really makes it gross is like then making a big deal of showing your employees this shiny stuff that you bought before they get laid off a couple days later. So yeah, that's gross. CEOs, you should be more like Flava Flav, who using his wealth to support the arts and culture, and financing or sponsoring the water polo, the U.S. water polo team. Be more like Flava Flav. Use your extra money to support endeavors that benefit the public. So Just saying. So yeah, it's terrible. And yeah, it's like it's 17% of their workforce. Like it's a big number. And it's just like on the heels of more layoffs that came like over the past year, that I believe we have reported on previously. So yeah, no, it's terrible all around. So let's move on from that. Next up, GamesRadar reports that Astarion and Karlach minis were found in a test build of Project Sigil, which is the codename for the virtual tabletop platform being developed by Wizards of the Coast for D&D Beyond. My guess is that they will probably put all of the Baldur's Gate 3 characters there. Like, I cannot imagine that they stop with Astarion and Karlach and not put Lae'zel and God's Favorite Princess. Or just, Minsk and Jaheira, I would assume, will need to be put in there as sort of veteran Baldur's Gate characters. So yeah, and my guess this will be part of the microtransit. There might be like a Baldur's Gate 3 pack, because they've said that like custom minis and things like that will be part of their microtransaction strategy. Because again, we live in a world of microtransactions now. There's no putting that back in the bottle, that genie back in the bottle. So, yeah, I'd imagine, it will probably be some sort of Baldur's Gate 3 pack of content. Which, yeah, this brings up a point. I'm curious to see if they'll allow you to like import your own custom stuff. I think that would be really interesting. Like, that would be a cool feature, is say if you could make your minis in, say, Hero Forge and then import them, because like the model's right there already, and if you could just import it in, I think that would be super cool. So, but yeah, so Project Sigil is the virtual tabletop that they've showed off. I mean, it seems pretty ambitious, to reuse that word of the day. So we'll see how it goes. Hopefully it's supported better than the 4th edition character builder, which got dropped for entirely different circumstances. Or from, say like any product that Google rolls out. So yeah, just the little bit of fun news as a bit of a palate cleanser. Before we get right into more terrible news. Next up, The Verge reports that GameInformer, the sort of last prominent gaming magazine that was in print for 33 years, has ceased operations and laid off its staff. GameInformer was previously available to like GameStop Pro Rewards members, or Power Rewards, whatever the membership is. It's like you got the magazine as part of that. Prior to that, they were independent, but previously GameStop CEO Ryan Cohen had previously stated that, quote, every expense at the company must be scrutinized under a microscope and eliminated. So it's possible that, if it was viewed as a loss leader or something, that the company decided that it wasn't worth it, which is, it's sad. I mean, I was still using it as a news source for the podcast. I was still getting the digital copies. I don't know if they didn't, like, if the metrics weren't good enough to justify keeping. I mean, obviously the metrics weren't good enough, but like, yeah, I don't know. or if they determine the cost too high of producing it versus the cost of getting a membership. I don't know. So it's sad. Like Electronic Gaming Monthly, Nintendo Power, GameInformer, all gone. So, and I'm not sure how many staff they had on hand. I did not mention that in the article, but yeah, sad day. Next up, continuing that news, Polygon reports that Humble Games has seemingly shut down. So it is a publisher for a number of indie studios that make games like Coral Island, Slay the Spire, and like they just published a game, Bow. I don't remember the full title, but yeah, it's causing some amount of panic and confusion as people don't know how to move forward. A Humble Games rep, which is like there's not really a lot of communication from the company, which appears to have been turned over to like third-party consultants. So, and according to all the social media team members, like everybody was laid off. So, so this seems to be that this is like a consultant rep, that is making this statement. The rep Michael Brown has stated that, quote, nothing has changed and no developers have had to change their porting plans. Every project is moving ahead. And that developers who are confused are still, quote, getting synced up with their new points of contact. I mean, if that's what's happening, it's not happening fast enough for developers. Since the developers of Coral Island offered like a promotion where people who I guess were trying to get it on, or who had backed it for Switch, were given like free codes for Steam. It was something where people who were trying to get it on one platform were given basically free codes for Steam in order to get it there, because like they have no idea on how to port it now. So yeah, like we hear a lot of development studios like going in flux, going under, and doing layoffs and stuff, but like not really for publishers. So a publisher going under is like, that's bad. Like that causes a lot of issues for dev studios, because like not a lot of dev studios self-publish. Like they work with a publisher to provide, you know, marketing and maybe localization services, porting, and things like that. I mean, when Stardew Valley first launched, it was published by Chucklefish, you know. So, and then when it got big enough, Concerned Ape had decided like, okay, I can handle things from here, guys. Thank you very much. So yeah, publisher going under like causes all sorts of nightmares. Oh, and then like not having a transition plan, it seems. Or if you do have one, not communicating the transition plan to your developer team, like to your dev studios that you're working with. Yeah, it just seems like a totally botched thing that happened. So, yeah, best of luck to all of the developers who are working with Humble Games. You know, hopefully, you know, you can find some way to move forward. Especially since like Coral Island is like trying to fulfill Kickstarter promise, like Kickstarter stretch goals. So I don't know. Next up, some good news. Polygon reports that United Paizo Workers, which is the sort of workers union for Paizo, who makes Pathfinder, has won a Diana Jones Trophy for excellence in gaming. The trophy was awarded to them as the first workers union in the tabletop RPG industry. More unions. Get them in there. You know who deserves is Wizards of the Coast. Absolutely. Those folks. Well, and kind of the like, I don't know. Like, the thing with Wizard, I don't know if Paizo relies on like freelancers as much as Wizards does, but like that is a bit of it, because like the people that are most effective are writers and artists, in like a lot of the policies that Wizards, will put out, and they're all freelance talent. Like, there's not a lot of internal folks working on that stuff. It's mostly like in leadership and management positions, to oversee the teams. But regardless, folks, you should unionize. There we go. I can't, because I'm a manager at my day job. So I'm telling you, go ahead, just do it. You should do it. So yeah, that's enough of my union rant. But yeah, they won a Diana Jones Trophy. Seems like it's given to like people in the industry, or like teams in the industry that are doing some sort of social good. And so I think being the first workers union is helping to pave the way for that. So yeah. And I think the more people do it, the more the public gets used to the idea of unions coming back. And therefore, we can get them in, and we can start getting some workers' rights back, or pushing for more. So, all right, I'm gonna get off my union soapbox, and get to our final piece of news. Wildermyth. Wildermyth is coming to consoles. Eurogamer reports that the storytelling RPG will be brought to Xbox, PlayStation, and Switch in October of this year. At least that's the target release. So, Wildermyth is great. I played. I did it on stream a few years ago, and it is like, it captures the feel of like what older D&D campaigns were doing, where like character, like, you would keep your characters for a long time in the course of a campaign story, and like you would have extended breaks of downtime. Like, you might have like a couple years in between adventures, sort of a thing. And like your characters would retire, and then you would bring in new characters. And so this is like, it's got a system for your characters aging and retiring, and new people being brought in, or they might, like, you might have like, your characters might start families and their children join the party. And then on top of that, it's a very interesting sort of tactical RPG. I really like the magic system, which is you infuse objects with magic to then gain abilities based on the object that you infuse. So like, if you if you form a connection with like a fire pit, that will allow you to like throw little fireballs from the fire pit. Whereas like, if you form a connection with like a wardrobe, you can either like smash it, like break it apart into splinters and like cause like a splinter burst, or like cause it to tip over and like strike somebody. So it's interesting things like that. If you infuse with like a tree, you can like provide cover, or again, like cause it to tip over and things. And like the material matters, and like the type of object matters. So, yeah, it's very cool. I would look forward to getting back into it. And it has multiplayer. It has cooperative multiplayer. So that is a thing. So for example, if you want to get into sort of the D&D sphere or the TTRPG sphere, you don't really have let's say you're a group of players and you don't have a GM, and nobody's willing to step up. This is an option for you, because it very, very well simulates the experience. And the art style is really neat. It's like a little like pop-up picture book style. So also, if you're a fan of Paper Mario, it has kind of a similar aesthetic to it, where everything feels like it's like a pop-up book. So, yeah, I love it. Wildermyth's great. Coming to consoles. And that will wrap up our news for this week. So thank you all for joining me for this episode of the 8-Bit Adventures podcast. If you'd like to find more content from 8-Bit Adventures, you can check out our website at 8-bitadventures.com, or 8bitadventures.com. That will redirect. If you'd like to help support that content, the best way to do so is to become a patron at patreon.com/8bitadventures. Patrons can get benefits for as little as $1 a month. Sorry, my kids are like running outside the door and making all sorts of noise. So yeah, patrons, you can become a patron for as little as $1 a month, which is, I forget what Twitch subs cost now, but it's like 20% of the cost of a Twitch sub. And thank you to the patrons for all of your continued support. Thank you for help keeping the lights on. And finally, our opening theme is One Up by Professor Shy Guy. If you're at Gen Con, go see him. He's at Gen Con right now. So go check him out. But you can find his stuff over at professorshyguy.bandcamp.com. And with that, we're going to close out this episode. So as always, everyone, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Have fun. Happy gaming. And enjoy your pie cake.